I love how our countdown says, "Take a breath," right as it
Yes.
drops us in. So, welcome to the IT Hour, everyone. Friday, June 16th. Alexa and I were talking about this, yes, I think it was yesterday, where it's like, where'd the time go? We're mid-June. It is
I know.
a summer Friday, and here we are.
Here we are.
Welcome. We're glad to be here. David, welcome back. It's been a
Thank
while.
you. Hello, welcome everyone.
Yeah, good to have you. Well, so it's Friday, and we have a 3-day weekend here in the US. So, any fun plans? I mean, Alexa,
Well,
I know
yes, you
you.
can probably tell I have a new background here. Yeah, I'm in Dallas for the weekend, just visiting a friend from college, a little bit of a girls' weekend. So yeah, I'm very excited.
I have to catch
Awesome.
up on house cleaning if that counts for anything.
Hey, that always counts.
Hey, Stuart. Stuart's saying hello in the chat. See, we see Keith, and we've got, well, we got a bunch of people. Wow, everyone's showing up. Jeff and James and Daniel, Brian, Eric.
The gang's all here.
Yeah,
Hello,
Brandon,
everybody.
Charles, Sam, Brett. Wow, yeah, the gang's all here. Welcome, everyone. If I missed anyone,
Brandon
apologies
is
for
always
that.
here.
Yeah.
You and
And
me both, Brandon.
Stuart was very excited. He posted a happy bird hopping around in the IT hour chat. So yeah, we are glad to be here. Definitely. So
And we're all caffeinated. We were talking about it in the chat, but yeah, Becky cracked, her soda right before, and then David and I were like, wait a second. So yeah, David ran and got his cold brew, and I ran and got my Diet Coke. So
I had it steeping for 16 hours. It is just right.
wow, that's amazing.
very
Like team
nice.
brew, yep, team cold brew.
Yeah. Well, I cracked my Dr. Pepper Zero off screen, and I was like, I promise it is soda. It's not a beer. It's a little early for that, even though it's Friday. It's not beer o'clock yet.
We believe you.
Yeah. Well, I have I'm showing proof. So
Hey, we don't know what's in that can.
yeah.
I'm just
Well,
kidding.
all
Dr.
right.
Pepper
Yeah.
Black. Haven't heard of that one.
I mean, it kind of looks black, but it's really kind of a greenish. But I'm telling you, the cherry zero is pretty good. So, but I'm almost out. I was lamenting to Alexa that this is my next to last one. So I'm going to have to make a store run after ice cream today. Because as you know, Friday is ice cream day. So
Yes.
we have to do our ice cream run, and then I'll go to the store after that. So
That's super cool. My grandfather always did that when we were kids. It would always be, I think, Saturday night.
Oh,
yeah, well, we've
love those memories.
yeah, my kids and I after school on Fridays. That's our thing, and we have fun. Charles is saying in the chat, every day is ice cream day. And speaking of that, so I'm in the chat for the Mac admins, PSU Mac admins that's coming up, and they're talking about, I guess, the creamery that's
Yes.
on campus or near campus. And everybody's talking about making a trip there. So that
It was
sounds.
upgraded a few years back, and I'm showing my age. A few years is probably longer than a few years, but you cannot go to Penn State without hitting up the creamery.
That's what I'm
All
hearing. And
right.
there's a whole big thread about the must visit and how people.
Uh-oh, sorry, storm warning here.
It works.
Sure,
The
everything's
emergency alert
okay.
works.
Highways did not explode again here in Philadelphia.
Not that kind
Man,
of emergency
Billy's
alert,
going
right?
through it.
Toxic air, don't care.
Hope you change your air filters. Um,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely do that. But apparently, everybody's really excited about going to the creamery. They're talking about how many people can fit in everybody's cars, and doing some extra trips and everything. So,
That was a tornado warning. Ooh.
Oh,
ooh,
Hmm.
not a
a
watch,
warning
but
or
a
a watch?
warning, huh?
Jeez.
You better
Well,
Yeah, well, be careful there. Maybe
Yeah, the sirens went off here last night too. There was a tornado watch. So crazy.
Oh, this is a condo, no basement here. So I think my best bet might just be an inner hallway or something away from the windows.
better keep an eye out there. If it
I'll
starts getting
keep that
really
with you.
dark, then
Yeah.
keep an eye out. So,
AJ over here, my pit bull shepherd mix will probably take off and just be like, "Good luck to you. It's been fun."
yeah, he'll alert you. Oh, Rob says signs that David is a natural Midwesterner. If he were, he'd be going outside to check it out and
I
probably
lived
taking a
in
video.
Michigan.
Yeah, I'm from Missouri, so that's definitely a thing. In fact, you
God.
go out and take a look and take video until the last possible second.
I'll
All
never
right.
forget. It was our, oh, okay, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Tell your story.
Well, it was just, but I talked about this last week, but when we, because I lived in St. Louis and it was our first night there, we had literally just moved and the sirens were going off, and I was just like, we've made a horrible mistake.
We
Crazy weather
lived
in the
so
Midwest.
far out that we didn't even have sirens. There was nothing. So what was most scary to me as a kid was when we would have the warnings at night because you couldn't see anything. You wouldn't be able to see anything coming. So that was always the scariest part for me because you just wouldn't know what was going on until it was too late. So, yee, kind
Hmm.
of kind of glad we don't have as much of that here.
Yes.
Once a great while, but not usually. Instead, it's hurricanes.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, we've got our usual schedule today. Community updates, meetups. I don't think there's a lot for meetups, but and then our main topic, Google Identity Services versus AD. I'm sure David has a lot to say on that. So, quick community update. We've got some threads that we will share in our recap that you can go check out. We've got a couple of scripts, some posts in security and networks, and some of those are David's, and some things in best practices. So, there is a question in the software and hardware forum, assign UID, GIDs automatically. So please go check that out if you can help. Sean did a script on auto update software and apps in your organization. DHCP and DNS without a domain controller is there in security and networks. And Jurgen has been playing with the Chat GPT plugin. And so his post is, hey, what can this Chat GPT plugin do? Experimenting with directory insights and a custom Chat GPT plugin. And another post by David, how to get passwords out of your browser. That one's the one in security and networks. And then Sean's other post, reimagine OS provisioning with dynamic groups is in best practices. So go check those out. We'll have that list available for you. Some good stuff there in the community. Alexa, your turn.
Yeah, well, like you mentioned, nothing really to share this week. We are once again taking a look at the schedule. We're thinking about doing some more virtual events, just to, especially as we approach summer, just making sure that we can accommodate everyone's schedules, and yeah, making sure that we can reach as many people as possible. We aren't constrained by our geographic locations, but yeah, stay tuned to make sure you're a part of our network. It's always in the show notes that I post in the community, but that's where everything will be posted. But yeah, stay tuned for more.
Awesome. And I don't have anything for product releases and announcements this week, but we should have more coming soon. So we're going to jump into the main topic of the hour. So, David, what you got for us today?
Okay, well, we might as well compare a Model T to a Tesla. Model T was a workhorse that was very dependable. You could repair it. It would probably run forever if you put the work in. But it only did Model T things. So Google provides optionality. And what does that mean? Well, of course, at the very basic level, there's SSO, but through Google Cloud Identity, through partnerships such as with Jump Cloud, where Google has recommended us for the SME market for small and mid-sized businesses or organizations. There are other options. So rather than prescribe something, there's different ways to do it, to sort of roll your own. And of course, you can use AD with Google anything. LDAP Sync is built into the console. But really, these days, let's get real. AD is a path to Azure AD, SCCM, PAM, health monitoring through AD Connect, much more. Some nice security services, all are cloudy things. So it's really almost impossible to escape having some of those subscriptions, even if you're an AD shop. And of course, you can use Azure AD to manage Google, but then you're in that whole M365 world, which can be great. Microsoft's the queen of bundling, but not everyone wants to use their stuff. And Google and Jump Cloud, we like to say, are better together. And we're one of those options. So you can plug Jump Cloud in as your IDP with Google. We have a pre-built integration. It's very well documented, very mature. It's been running since about 2017. And it works very well. One size doesn't fit all. And then what are the advantages? If you're using Jump Cloud with Google, well, excuse me, you're unifying your cross-domain identities, device management. What does that accomplish? Well, can reduce costs, improves operational efficiencies, strengthens security because you have a baseline posture for those endpoints. And it's not patchwork of services, by the way. Everything is nicely integrated. A single IT admin can make it happen, and without having to hire a truckload of consultants to use, say, a other platform that's out there. So pressure is relieved on your IT admins and your security teams. So that's the essence of it. And AD doesn't have to be out of the picture either because we extend it. So M365 isn't the only path. If you have Active Directory, ADDS running. If you have a need to use Google Workspace, we could fit into the mix very nicely in all of those scenarios. So I don't see any comments here. Be observing any questions or comments that come up. All right. Yeah, Brandon, that is a good point. That Jump Cloud is really good at keeping a condensed console and not making 100 different pages pop up. That is for sure.
I just posted the link to the blog you wrote on this topic, which is why we asked you to guest host on today's episode. So wanted to share that.
Yeah, there's a whole series of those that have come out, and they can be very helpful at sort of outlining what the possibilities are.
This is unrelated to what you were talking about, David, but there was a question that popped up from Keith, and he was saying that should there be a yearly the IT after hour hosted by Jump Cloud in person? And I, for one, would love that. So Becky, something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I was going to just make a written comment on that, but yeah, I think that would be something to consider down the road as we grow. We've talked about having a like a user conference or something much further down the road, and maybe there could be like some sort of meetup that includes the IT hour or
At the
something like
cream.
that. Ooh. Maybe something a little easier to get to, though.
That's true. Central
It's
PA isn't
it's
exactly the easiest place.
yeah,
Kind of have to drive in.
definitely. Here we go. Stuart has a question. Not using GIS or AD, what would be the advantages of enabling it?
Not sure that I fully understand the question. I'm assuming that if you don't have AD or Google Identity Services and you want to use Jump Cloud.
I
So,
think maybe if they're not currently using either of them.
oh, well, single sign-on is really just the start of it. Of course, you still manage your Google resources within its console, but you're unifying access to your resources and securing it, which is super important. Protecting those identities. We're seeing so many attacks now that are lateral spread because of compromised identities. So it's really an essential thing to do. And if this is the great thing about Jump Cloud is that SSO sometimes isn't possible everywhere, especially if a service wants you to subscribe to the most expensive tier in order to have that capacity. So we have a very nice integrated password manager for those scenarios. And then you could go even deeper from there and managing your endpoints. Everything from patch management to browser for OS patch management, browser management. I've had a lot of fun using commands, using PowerShell. So there's quite a few things that you can do today and quite a few more coming around compliance and dynamic groups that we recently announced in our Q2 roadmap. Alexa, maybe you could drop that link in there. So really, we help to manage your infrastructure and acts and have really integrity and assurance in when your users are accessing services and your data, and maybe data that's confidential. Um, I think I just gave the stump speech there. Hopefully that answered the question.
All right. So what else have you got on that, David?
Hmm?
What else can you tell us about your topic? I'm looking through
Well,
the notes.
if you check out the article too, there's I mentioned optionality. Google does provide a ton of different options. Everything from things that are built into its platform to being able to use Jump Cloud as your IDP. Um, so it outlines it really nicely. We tried to play it as is really just the facts. And if you're looking for a way to manage Google Workspace users, it can be a pretty helpful guide.
Also, a little more about MSPs. I think you had mentioned that it was important for MSPs, but maybe we actually do have some MSPs in the audience, and so maybe it'll be helpful to talk more about why this would be important for them for expanding their business.
Yeah, expanding business is the really the key phrase there. So correct me if I'm wrong, but just about every MSP I know has wanted to consolidate onto a certain stack. That's how you get operational efficiencies and scale. And there's been many times where business has had to be turned away, at least with some folks that I know, when someone says, no, I don't want to use M365. I don't want to use SharePoint. I want to be able to use this file sharing services. It's the best for my law firm. I want to be able to use Google Workspace. So rather than turning that business away, Jump Cloud makes it happen through the pre-built integrations we have with cloud directories, through SSO and having more privileged access as well through Radius, LDAP, everything, SSH key management, everything you would need to manage an environment, have some flexibility in doing so, with environment-wide MFA and even more options for modern authentication coming. So there's a lot of exciting stuff that can be done, but more importantly, it's the MTP, the multi-tenant portal, being able to take actions on many users and many devices across different tenants and being able to be more efficient. And we had this conversation, a small group of us the other day, where we thought, well, what really practically would an MSP care about when it comes to their business? Having run a business, non-MSP business, manufacturing business, I know it's really difficult to find and retain good people. And especially when there's something as, say, complex as Microsoft Azure, where a junior level person could do a lot of harm. We feel that, and I agree with this, having used both platforms, your technicians could really pick up on Jump Cloud fairly easily. And we provide a lot of free training and support through Jump Cloud University, where you can really onboard new employees, mentor them, and money that would go to training and everything else could go into marketing to expand your business. That's a question we see a lot of MSPs ask in different forums, especially ones that are starting out, is how do I invest in marketing? How do I do this and that and have the resources to do all the things? So there's a strong business argument to grow your business, not just extending your business through the platform and using these different stacks. It's really being able to execute without also having to, say, outsource some business. I've worked with MSPs that have had to hire professionals for certain things, including when managing migration from Exchange to M365. They just didn't have the in-house talent, or they were overloaded, or that one person was stretched so thin that he or she was on the road half the day traveling to different sites, and then you never know what's going to happen. Then you fall behind, and there's the perpetual question of business development. So we feel that from a practical standpoint, for someone who owns an MSP business, that Jump Cloud has many advantages.
Awesome.
Different. Alexa, Becky, you can read the comments.
So Robin saying, as an MSP, I have an RMN PSA app together with AD and Azure for the cloud services, all for my Microsoft clients. We have just implemented Jump Cloud for our GWS clients.
Exactly. And now you can have both clients.
That's really good. Thanks for that example, Robin. I'm looking at our notes, David, and we talked a little bit about, one size doesn't fit all and how unification is important. So do you want to talk a little bit about unification and why, Google Identity versus Active Directory is important in helping with that?
Sure. So if you were just going to use AD integration, which is built into Workspace, you see the option to add an LDAP directory, and you can sync groups, you can sync users. That's one way of doing it. But then if you're really a masochist, you'd set up a server farm for ADFS to have single sign-on doing it that way. And yes, you can totally accomplish things that way, but it gets very expensive. Heck, to do things the right way and follow best practices, you even need multiple servers just to have DHP services not running on your domain controller, or to have high availability and keep all that stuff running so that people don't lose internet when a server reboots or goes down. So there's there's some very fundamental advantages. It's very expensive to run the data center. So having the option to be able to pick your IDP, whether it's using some of Google services, they have some nice stuff, or using Jump Cloud, it that's just the start. And then you mentioned unification. Well, there's all these other resources where you don't want someone using their kid's gaming PC to access it when they're working from home. You want that to be managed if it's something that you need privileged access for. Um, or if you want to have a total separation of work and personal activities and have only work happen on a managed device, whether it's company owned, personally enabled, or otherwise, or a little more hardened than that. So it's a matter of pulling everything that can be connected together, everything from your switches and your firewalls, that type of infrastructure, through your OIDC or SAML apps, passwords that are managed. There's an advantage to all of this, to being able to really unify and manage your infrastructure, and things don't fall through the cracks, and it's easier to know what you're dealing with when you know your assets.
Yeah. Yeah, David, that's awesome. And kind of along those lines, you talk in your article about the best of both worlds, right? You talk about how JumpCloud and Google are better together, and so is JumpCloud and AD. And I was just wondering if you could talk through some of the use cases you mentioned when it comes to JumpCloud, in particular, ensuring that every resource has a best way, as you put it, to connect to it. So, for example, the first one you list is servers use SSH keys that are more secure than passwords.
Okay, I thought you were going to throw me some AD use cases there, in which case there are many. We don't just want to say your Microsoft infrastructure is no good, throw it out. That's not practical for everyone. Sometimes people, more often than sometimes, inherit their infrastructure, right? And you can't exactly go to the boss and say, I want to toss all of this out and start over. So we enable that, just to address that before we move forward. We enable many use cases. We're going to have some nice collateral out around that in our coming marketing campaign, sort of an integrated campaign, where it's replace, extend, or just use this thing to manage. Maybe your compliances require you, those requirements require you to have authentications on-prem. That's cool. But you can use us to manage your Android devices. So there's quite a few possibilities there. The second part of your question was having a best way to access. I think the main part, the primary part, was the best way to access a resource. Well, it's by having one place where there's common network protocols, there's web protocols, and we're not really nickel and diming you. If we go back to something such as LDAP or Radius, many cases folks need, if you don't have it set up in your data center through MPS, as a Microsoft user, you're going to need Cloud Radius. With LDAP, you have to pay for, you either have to set up NPS or Active Directory ADDS. Now that's included there, that's yet another subscription on top of your AD tier that you're already subscribing to. So having all those protocols in one place, even the ability to create custom SAML apps, and I mean, if you look at pricing of some other IDP services too, you got to have another tier to be able to make that custom app rather than just using a pre-built connector. So there's quite a bit that we throw in there that you find in the premium and enterprise tiers of alternative services that you're able to use and work inside of the box, working out using the technology that's in JumpCloud's Open Directory platform. And being able to have a best way to connect your resources that is the best for your users, that's secure, and all that good stuff. Oh, user cows, geez. I
Yeah.
felt
Oh,
like I got shaken down over those more than once.
actually, Patrick has posted a question. Lots of companies and public sector agencies are apprehensive to use new tech as they are tried and true or tested to the extent. Some states follow state ramp or FedRAMP programs,
Mm.
excuse me, for risk and cyber. Has JumpCloud thought about gaining compliance with FedRAMP?
Oh, geez, that's a question that might be above my pay grade. I would say contact our teams in sales engineering and elsewhere that may we have some of this stuff mapped out for various compliances. But it's we are focused on our addressable market is SMEs, right? Um, so it would be nice to be everything to everyone, but that isn't always the case. And to answer your question, it's an interesting possibility, but that's probably not something for me to answer today. Um, and just like, we have a protocol that's the best fit to connect to a resource, sometimes there's solutions that are the best fit when you're working with the feds.
Yeah, Patrick, if you don't mind asking that actually in the community, I can then get you an answer for that. So, because then I can assign a resource and have someone answer that for you. So, if you don't
That's
mind
probably a
doing that.
better answer than what I gave. Me and my wheels a little bit
But it
there.
may
You really threw a curveball.
but appreciate that, but, yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
So
and I wouldn't say that we're totally new because we've been around for a while now, since before 2017, number of years. And we have, geez, how many users? Many, many, many hundreds of, it's more than hundreds of thousands. I haven't seen those numbers lately. I'd say I don't want to put the wrong numbers out there, but there's quite a few logos. There's quite a few users using Jump Cloud every day for mission critical workflows.
and I know we have a lot of NGOs and other, companies using us, so but I don't know we haven't specifically addressed FedRAMP that I know of at this moment, but we can find out for you and see if that's on the roadmap or not. So, um, just put that question out there, and then we'll get you the answer
I
and get back to
know
you on that.
we've looked at some DoD standards, but it's nothing that it's at the top of my head.
Yeah, it's a big lift. So I don't know if that's a market we're planning to go after or not. That's like David said, that's above our pay grade. Kelly says that she'd like to find out about FedRAMP too. They have some clients where it'd be useful, so she's going to follow that in the community too. So,
These are good questions to have
mhm,
and for us to follow up on. So that's one of the reasons we have these events is because we can learn where the interests lie.
mhm, absolutely. So, thank you for bringing that up, and we'll go find out and bring it back to you. But definitely ask in the community. He said he would, because that allows us to then go take that back to the team and get you an actual answer. So, and then it'll be there where other people can see it as well. Kelly will go follow it. So awesome. David, what else did you have on that topic? Did you have other things you wanted to talk about on that, or did we want to talk about what's in the news?
We've covered it quite a bit, but you know what? I'm going to give a real world example that's a little tangential. A friend was in town last night who is the dean of a law school, and they have three IT people. And, of course, of a very lovely dinner together last night, he said, I thought if I bought Microsoft, that it would be easy and everything would be okay. And they have been unable to implement what they're paying for. We didn't go into further detail, but in my experience with some organizations that I've worked with, including a friend's law firm, including another friend's financial planning company, they're paying for stuff, even though those bundles look really lovely at the cost per user per month. They're paying for stuff that they haven't and can't implement, and then the cost of implementing it, and even finding someone who would want to work with the business their size. Um, Good luck. So there's the sticker price, and then there's the actual real life price of doing things and implementing things. And I think last night's dinner was illustrative of that.
Kelly's comments making me chuckle. Oh, you sweet summer child. Yeah. Definitely. Um, yeah, I mean, a lot of times when people go into these things, the the due diligence and the requirements aren't as thorough as they should be. And that's where you get into trouble because um, it can be tough to know exactly what you want or what you need. Um, and Jeff is leaving a comment: cheap, easy, fast. Most companies stop at the first one. That's right. They're not always thorough about what they need, or they don't even always know what they need, especially for small businesses, because they may not have a very large IT team, they may not have a very experienced IT team, they may not
Or
even
even have
have
one.
one at all. Exactly. So they don't know how to do requirements, they don't know how to do an assessment of their needs, and so they just go look at something and go, oh well, this looks like it'll work, and they haven't even figured out if they can implement it properly or how they're going to implement it. And so they have immediate technical debt, like immediately off the bat.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're starting behind the 8 ball immediately, and you hurt yourself, and then you've got the sunk cost, and people don't want to, you know, just throw that away because, oh, I put all this money into it, and it just keeps piling up, right?
And back to our MSP friends. There's so many organizations out there that would really benefit by working with an MSP, but they think it's too expensive, or they don't need all that. And I'd say it's the opposite. And really, there's an addressable market out there, especially using Jump Cloud for MSPs and being able to have, say, a more junior level technician do a lot of this stuff, where there's a lot of business out there that I would bet you, this is just my gut speaking, that I bet you MSPs could pick up a lot of that business.
And I have seen firsthand where, someone's getting ready to buy something and they are told, "Oh yeah, the software can do that." But what they don't say is it does it with customization. It does it, but it doesn't do it out of the box. And if you're not familiar with that software, you don't know to ask the question, well, does it do it out of the box, or am I going to have to customize it? Because that's additional overhead, additional debt. And sometimes people don't know what they don't know.
Good comments here.
Yeah. People forget their personal experience buying something that has an additional delivery cost or installation labor cost or whatever it is. You're right, Kelly. And Jeff is saying ServiceNow and Salesforce both come to mind. Yes, there's immediate additional cost of implementation,
All powerful,
seats,
great
and
platforms, and some
Mhm,
wonderful people at those organizations. I've known many over the years, but
mhm.
sometimes when you buy more than what you need, you end up not implementing it.
Yeah, or you buy it and there's an immediate implementation cost because you immediately have to customize it. Like you can't implement it out of the box. Kelly's saying, I know a user site now that converted to a completely different ERP at great costs of time and money, and not one person involved in the decision said, what if we just upgraded the one we already have? Yeah,
Oh, that brings back memories. Mm,
exactly.
I used an
And
old ERP system. I didn't mean to cut you off, Becky. Please
no,
go.
it's okay.
I used an old ERP system that traced back to its DOS version, and it was an incomplete implementation. I quickly came to the conclusion that replacing it with something swanky, modern, and web based was not a good proposition when it was an incomplete implementation. And even from the basis, from the ground ups, even the roles were a mess. So it comes down to doing those fundamentals right and implementing what you have, that whole inside the box philosophy that I mentioned. When you have those tools, you have those right protocols, implement what you have, make it work, do the things.
Yeah. And, education costs to learn how to do the thing you bought the thing for that isn't out of the box functional, what Jeff is saying. It's when somebody is making a decision in a vacuum and they're not including stakeholders. They're not looking at who's this going to affect. It could be procurement, or um it could be the business owner who's not talking to IT, and they're making the decision without IT, or sometimes, unfortunately, it's IT making the decision without the business owner. It goes both ways sometimes, where not everyone's talking to everyone else that needs to be talked to, and doing the due diligence to make sure everyone understands what's happening. I've seen way too many silos where everyone's not making the decision together, and that's where you get into trouble.
Good question there from Charles. I am not on the team that really does case studies in those customer engagements, but speaking from experience, we dog food what we have here at Jump Cloud, and really the biometrics are it's pretty much seamless. I mean, when you're in the console, the options there. When you're having that SSO login, and if you're using, say, nice iPhone like mine, it just Face ID happens. So we use this stuff ourselves, and it's
Mhm.
not necessarily something that you need to go out and buy a dedicated hardware key for. In fact, we're doing something that we hinted towards in our last roadmap that really would eliminate a need for a FIDO 2 based hardware key. Um, I'm not sure if Becky, Alexa, if you're familiar with some customer engagements specifically focused on passwordless.
Um, Not at this time, not yet, but I would love to see people in the comments, to see how others are implementing these, and we can talk about that.
I've seen
Um,
search used for radius. That makes life easier for everyone.
mhm.
And we provide.
So, especially if
Mhm.
any of the MSPs in here are doing it themselves, or if any of you have started working on that, we'd be happy to feature you doing that. And I'll do a call out for that in Slack and on the community, and we can certainly see what other people are doing. I'd love to see more around that. Passkeys, biometrics. So, Alexa, if you'll capture that question from Charles,
Yeah.
we'll put a call out and see what we have happening. We may
Yeah,
have some.
that'll be its own show because it is an important topic to have that modern authentication. We do understand that and we do hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I know. I had
feel
the same thought, David. I would love to do an episode on that. And seems like there is
I
interest, which is
feel
great.
like I feel like I know somebody who's working at a company that's doing that. Um, so I'll have to go back and look and see what they're doing. So I will do that. And maybe we can bring them on board to talk about that. Awesome. Some really good comments today. So thank you all for jumping in. I think I forgot to mention Kelly's comment. So now they have a totally different system, and nearly a year after go live, leadership is finally coming around to needing a person on staff just to manage that system. Yes, that's that seems to be how it happens, Kelly.
I
You
had a
know.
conversation like that with a friend the other day where it was this person who was not an IT person, really the person we need running these systems, and thinking, well, not an IT person.
Or
Mm,
how many times have you had you know, the IT person thrown into cybersecurity when they haven't really been trained on it, and it's like, well, we need somebody to do it. Uh, that can be a scary situation too when you're thrown into something that you don't know anything about, and you're just kind of having to fly by the seat of your pants. It's not your fault. Uh,
Another great reason to work with MSPs.
mhm. Yeah, if you can get them to allocate the budget for it, and that's always a push pull too. So, but it is a good reason to have an MSP. Rob says, "Hey, I resemble that remark." Yes, I feel your pain at times. All right, we've got about 15 minutes left, and we've got some uh interesting headlines to talk through. And I've been thinking that since I pull these most of the time, David helped today. Thank you, David, by the way.
I think
I
it's
think
been
I need to.
really nasty out there.
Oh, do you
Just
need to?
more, more storm like. It's just almost dark as night and lots of heavy rain.
All right. Well, keep an eye out if you need to step away and go look out the window and make sure
Need
there are
the
no
rain. It's been
no
so
funnels.
dry. The grass was looking bad, so I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, watch for any clouds starting to come down and form a funnel, please. So if you need to take,
Sheep flying around outside the window, all that good stuff.
yeah, if you see Wallace and Gromit kind of flying around through the air, then if you could spell USB, oh, you could spell USB, you're in charge of security now. Oh boy. You know what USB stands for. You're all the IT things now. Kelly says headlines, aka nightmare fuel. Kelly! But I am thinking about making a weekly list of all the different interesting headlines, not just the ones that we pull. If I can find the time for that, and that way you can scroll through, kind of like your own personal hacker news, only more interesting. Ooh, did I say that? Ladies with flying bicycles. I like that. So, David, which one do you
Make
want to
Your Son Like
start
a
with?
Flying Bicycle. Wasn't there a show years ago? I'm dating myself.
No comment. Which one do you want to start with? Do you want to start with Reddit?
Oh yeah. So pretty much, my understanding is the horse was let out of the barn and they wanted to put it back in with API licensing. And there's some really great clients that were built for it that a lot of people use and love. And the folks who make that can't afford to license the APIs anymore. So the communities have been in uproar, and I ran into that after I stupidly upgraded my M1 Mac Mini to a developer build of what's it? Someone needs to. I wish our Mac people were here. Wish Tom was around. What's it? Sonoma, the new one. But I put developer OS on, and I ended up with sort of a black screen and a cursor and nothing more. So I was wanted to look in Reddit, and because there was a thread just about that of people who were as brilliant as me who did the same thing, and couldn't get to it. And some of the largest communities have rebelled. So yeah, it was a people powered service, and now the people are showing their power.
Yeah, and there's even more of an update on that. So over it was earlier this week that some of them went blackout, and they went private for 2 or 3 days. And then a memo leaked from Reddit from the CEO saying, no worries, they'll just ignore it. It'll go away. And that ticked off the larger subreddits. So they are actually talking about going dark even longer. And the problem with this is Reddit is built on the backs of volunteers. The moderators are all volunteers. None of them are paid. There are some employees of Reddit that are paid, of course, but the largest subreddits are all run by volunteers. And the callousness of this, just ignoring the pleas of it, are really interesting. And what's even more interesting is there's a colleague that I know of who used to run community at Reddit. Hi, Evan, if you ever watch this. And he tried really hard to avoid stuff like this, like protests and things like this, um, when he ran community at Reddit. And he hasn't been there for like a year or so. And now they're having things like this happen because they are ignoring their key resource, which is all the volunteer moderators. And that's a very, very important part of community. The people that do these things for free.
Should
I
be a
mean,
lesson for all of us not to take the folks who got you where you are for granted.
mhm. And Rob made a good point in one of his posts. It's not just that Reddit is wanting to charge for API access, because that could be reasonable because all of these apps were built on accessing their APIs, and that can come with cost. It's how much they're wanting to charge. And I think we talked about this last week that Apollo, the one of the biggest apps, said that it was going to cost them over $20 million for access, and they just can't afford it. So they're going dark. Um, it's just it's just ridiculous. So this is a good chance to create something to fill that gap, maybe.
Reddit acquired a really cool ML ops, machine learning ops company that I worked with a few years back. There were folks who came out of Facebook who used to run some of the moderation stuff there. So I'm wondering if that has something to do with it because we're all about AI now. Anyway, just speculating.
Yeah, Kelly has a good point that the CEO has had chances to basically make amends to all the people, and every time he's had an opportunity, he has chosen not to. So, um,
Sideshow Bob stepping on the rake in The Simpsons.
something like that. So, yeah, all of those third party sites unedit, and all of those have been affected. So, uh it's a mess, and it's one of the great things about Reddit has always been the human generated content. Um, Even though you can't always know who it is that's speaking, so you don't know if they're full of whatever or if they really are an expert. You can over time you can tell by what they post, but you don't know their credentials because they're anonymous. And one of the things I like about building the type of communities we do is you can see over time that, yeah, this person knows what they're talking about because you can see things marked as a solution. So you can see the person's credentials over time. Um, but there's still a lot of value to Reddit, and I won't. Sometimes it's a cesspool, but it also has some really great things about it too. So I won't completely, you know, throw it out with the bathwater. Charles is right. Humans are the best worst. Yeah. It's not super great, but this whole standoff makes more sense when you remember that Reddit has an IPO coming. Yes. 100,000%.
Oh, this is cool. My watch has an emergency alert now. I'm not sure if everyone can see that.
Yeah. Yeah. You still doing all right?
I'm here.
Okay. Well, keep checking out your window.
We love the dedication, David.
I probably don't want to look out the window.
Yeah. Just stay focused.
Having lived in a tornado alley, though, you should, just a warning is different than a watch. So depending on how close it has been sighted, like I got one last year or the year before last where it was sighted near the airport. I live just a couple miles from the airport. So that was like, that's a little scary. Plot twist that emergency alert is for his blood pressure talking about Reddit.
Hey, I was at the cardiologist yesterday.
All right.
Well, isn't the Apple Watch starting to track, or there's going to be a new feature that will track like your mental health and it will track things like that? I thought I saw that.
The journal feature.
Oh,
And
very
there's a
nice.
mood thing. Some of the folks here might know better than us. I was kind of loosely following that.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what else we have. A U.S. judge temporarily blocks Microsoft's attempt to buy Activision Blizzard. Do you want to focus on that for a second, David? You're the one that pulled that one.
Yes. Put me on the spot here. I did pull that, so I kind of was asking for it, huh?
Yeah.
Uh, if you look around, there's a lot of uncompetitive markets out there. And when you have a software company or any company that has a dominant market position, there's going to be scrutiny depending on who's in charge. So I think this one is going in front of an FTC judge. I think, from what I heard recently, it could be wrong. I should probably read what's on the screen here. That they kind of just want to put a stay on it or hold it, and then get it in front of a judge.
There's a lot writing on that because there could be some serious money lost if they do their breakup, as they were calling it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, a lot riding on it there for sure. And these things are complex, but I'll leave it at this for at least this moment. Competition is a good thing. Competition is good for everyone. So sometimes it's important to look at these things with some skepticism.
Yeah, anytime there's, a big acquisition like that, there's always a worry of monopoly. So it's always interesting to watch those. Let's see. I think I skipped one. Europe is taking a step forward about agreeing for an AI rule book. So Europe is making a move toward that. They're going to curtail facial recognition and mandate data disclosures and more. So they are working on a rule book for AI. And meanwhile, we're like, eh. So I'm looking through this article. Parliament has voted to confirm its negotiating mandate for the AI Act, hitting a major milestone which unlocks the next stage of negotiations toward a pan EU rulebook for artificial intelligence. Among the changes they've backed is a total ban on remote biometric surveillance and on predictive policing. They have also added a ban on untargeted scraping of facial images from the internet or CCTV footage to create facial recognition databases. So that's interesting.
I like the GDPR comment. Yeah,
Oh,
definitely. We're all thinking about the parallels to that, huh?
um, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm on a different screen, so I'm not seeing the comments right now. Curveball, though, you had pulled another thing out of MIT Technology Review: generative AI risks concentrating big tech's power. So
Yes, that
some
kind of
false
ties into
advocates,
that.
yeah, some false advocates warn against regs locking in big tech.
I was about to
So,
say something along those lines. That's, there's the old expression that, the road that gets paved with good intentions. Obviously, there are concerns, legitimate concerns around privacy and the abuse of these technologies. But could the regulation be used to lock in the market for some very big vendors who are able to navigate that and hire the advisors and deal with all those layers upon layers of regulations? And again, I'm not saying the regulation isn't good. GDPR has some teeth and it does protect people. So if they have something similar in mind for AI, it could be good for us humans.
yeah, I think what's interesting is the consolidation of power through AI and kind of the monopolizing. The monopoly piece of it is what I'm thinking about.
What about open source communities and their
Mhm.
ability to navigate these things?
Yeah, hopefully that will help with it, but what it's saying is consider that the current AI boom depends on two things: large amounts of data and enough computing power to process it. So open source can help, if you use a network of computers to do it, but then how do you get that big access to all the big sources of data to do so? Like, for example, people were using Reddit, and now you don't have if you don't have API access to Reddit to help with that, because that's a lot of human created content, you're gonna have a harder time. And how do you get big sources of data? Yeah, you can use the internet, but there's a lot of that is crappy data. So who has big data sets? Universities and big companies. Yep. Massive cloud compute for that, just to train the models. And so that's either going to take a lot of people using their downtime on their computers, or hoping that universities will jump in and democratize that somehow.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to the old SETI at Home project,
Yeah.
where we're all donating CPU cycles over dial-up internet.
I remember doing some of that. Or things like you know, getting some grants for a supercomputer center and stuff like that to do things like that. I mean, they do a lot of projects, but and Charles is saying AI at home. I'm in. Yeah, that actually sounds pretty cool.
Yep, it
Um,
is cool. AI overlords. Nothing but cool.
how do
No
you how do you cordon off your information so it doesn't train on your personal information, and you only I mean, I don't want it training on my stuff, my documents in my computer, but I'll let it train on other stuff using my
Yeah,
computer
yeah,
power.
especially in certain communities, if there's information that's very personal about you that you don't want an AI figuring out, where do we draw the line at, being very mindful of people's privacy, even when people aren't necessarily disclosing things overtly?
Especially if people are in states like Florida and Texas. I mean, let's be real. That could open people up to some very scary situations. So we have to really, and that goes back to,
You're not wrong.
yeah, it goes back to the EU laws and how they're trying to protect people like that. And I know that we've seen headlines where the US is trying to do some of that too, but they're not quite as restrictive and careful about protecting people yet as the
Yeah,
EU is.
I'm wondering whether lawmakers and regulators are really up to speed on some of these technologies, because they are moving so fast. That is not to make a knock at people's ages and all. There's bright people of every and people who are willing and capable of learning. But it's really hard to keep up with this stuff, even for us. I mean, I don't, one of my colleagues, Adan, just got a master's degree in AI. I don't have one. So,
Well, yeah, but we've all seen public trials in Congress, and we know absolutely that they are not well versed in the internet and in computing, and especially in AI. So it's a valid concern.
what
But when you
strikes me is that when the people who are in those disciplines are out there saying, please do this to us, regulate us, that's when I start to really pay attention.
Mhm. But when you said regulators, I was going to say mount up. Regulators mount up. All right, we are over time, so we are good. But I'm loving the comments are still coming in. Thank you, Kelly, for the laugh. You got it. I appreciate that. That's all I needed. That's a good way to end the show today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. David, thanks for coming back.
Oh, it's been fun. I hope I answered people's questions and really enjoyed seeing the comments and being with you all. It's been a true pleasure.
Yes, and watch out for those tornado conditions. The warning means, you know, the warning means there's a taco on the way. So, as
It's a
Kelly
little
said,
bit lighter outside now, a little less foreboding out
less
the window.
ominous. Okay,
Less
good,
ominous.
good.
Yeah, better word. I'm supposed to be the writer.
All right. Well, Everyone, thank you for joining us. We loved having you again. We will see you next week, hopefully, and have a wonderful weekend. 3 days, hopefully, for majority of you. But if not, sorry for Brenton, Missouri. Apologies, but we will talk to you again next week.
Stay
See
happy,
you.
stay healthy, and safe.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.
Bye.